product-led growth's been around for a long time. Developer marketing's been around for a decent amount of time at this point, and developers have really come to expect that frictionless experience when they're engaging with platform, with a tool, with product, with a service. An excellent developer experience is no longer negotiable, but it's also, DX is relatively new term, right? And so what we wanted to do today was talk to some technical people, some developers, some people who have run developer experience programs, and unpack what DX is and have a conversation around past, present, future practice. So before we get into it, we'll let everyone do some quick introductions. Kelly, you're seated to my left, the hostess, so love for you to take us away.
Hi everyone, I'm Kelly. I'm AI developer marketing director at a company called Graphcore. Graphcore is a AI chip startup, and we're based in Bristol. And we invented the IPU, which is the Intelligent Processing Unit. And essentially, it's a processor designed specifically to run AI workloads. And we do everything from the silicon architecture through to the system of servers, scaling up to data center warehouses in the cloud, and all of the software stack that surrounds that. So I'm developer marketing. I am not technical. I didn't have an engineering background. And actually where my career started 11 years ago in developer marketing was actually at Catchy. Worked at Catchy for 6 years, based in the Bath office. So it's quite a full circle moment to be sat here today talking to you all about developer marketing and developer experience, because I know most of what I know for these guys. So yeah, excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Thanks for making the trip. We're happy you're here. This is a fun, like you said, full circle moment for the agency. Kyle.
Yeah, Kyle Tyacke, I'm Director of Technology here at Catchy. I've been in the software and technology sectors for the last 20 years or so. The first 10 odd years of that was spent in software development. So I was an engineer going way back, doing Flash development, JavaScript development, sort of the front-end aspects of things before becoming more of a full-stack engineer. I then spent another 8-ish years in developer relations and developer advocacy programs, building for companies like Cisco and Akamai, before landing in a fintech position, which was a new sector for me. Never thought I'd work in financial services. It was really eye-opening, interesting, and terrifying all at the same time. After that, I meandered my way somehow into Catchy through a bit of kismet and good fortune, and I landed here doing technology-related work for Catchy, bringing sort of that engineering slant to things. I like to say I'm the resident in-house nerd, so I answer all the questions on like what would a developer do, bringing that background to bear. And as the director of technology, I work on consulting and strategy and building developer programs. It's been great, and it's great to be here, and thanks everyone for coming out.
Appreciate it, Kyle. Last but not least.
I'm Alex. I've been in tech since 2010, and I've been kind of jumping through all sorts of different jobs, mostly centered around front-end development or data visualization. Though for the last year and a half now, I've been moving more and more into the back end in the full stack and just the web of container services that everything is composed of these days. I've been doing AI development. So finally at a AI startup company for the last year and a half, and have been watching to see just how these LLMs will change the world and how fast our chips can power that.
And we've made it through almost the entire day without focusing on AI, so this might be the session we get into a little bit of AI, right? But at least. And Alex, this is your third or fourth Catchy developer panel over the past handful of years?
At least third.
We got to get you a punch card. Come in, get a free developer marketing from you or something.
Sounds. I mean, I think I got cookies this time, so I'm already pretty
Let's go. Sky's the limit. Well, thank you all three for being here. Really appreciate it. Something we were excited about was kind of the diversity of opinion that we have, and I feel like we've got the right group for that. So we'll dig into it. Kyle, I wanted to start with you because I know this is a question you spend a lot of time answering for our clients. So I'm excited to see what you come up with here. But it's that foundation and stage setting kind of question, which is at the most basic level, what is developer experience? Why is it so important?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. Tom said it pretty well in his presentation earlier, which is DX equals UX, where the U equals developer. Really, it's just understanding your audience, right? What is their needs? So we talk about UX a lot. It's been something that's been around since so many early days of the internet. what do your users need as they use your application, as they use your products or your website? What is the experience that they have when they come to use this? This goes into the everyday world too. What is the experience when you open a can of Coke? Everything from opening that package, seeing the branding, getting a can, how it feels in your hand. That applies to developers as well. Right? So what is their experience when they use their product? The nuance is developers have specific needs. They are a unique persona. They have a specific cycle or journey that they go through, and those needs are sort of influenced by that journey. So it might be everything from coming to your website. What does the IA look like? What is their first experience in trying to find the resources on your site to learn about your product? The next step may be something Jerry around, like how do they download or access the tools and services relate to that product? I might be how are your APIs more? Right? How do the requests get built, and how familiar do they feel to that developer? So really, it's looking at user experience from the slant of the developer persona. Why is it important? It impacts every angle of adoption and usage of your product. Right? So the ultimate goal of any business is to increase usage, adoption, and engagement. You want to sell a service, you want to sell a product. Ultimately, that's sort of impacts your bottom line revenue. When developers are your audience or have an influence on the buying decisions of a company, that experience of theirs really impacts the bottom line directly. So everything you do supports and increases your trust from sort of the adoption and engagement of your product, which ultimately impacts the bottom line revenue of business. So want to look at it sort of like brass tacks, it's surely impacting revenue and potentiality of engagement and usage.
And then kind of, Alex, continuing on the same question before we leave into another one is from the developer side. How would you define developers? What does this look like? What does it look like to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is a growing and evolving term over time. I think originally it was very focused on kind of the tool itself, the actual tool that you're working with. What is it like to interact with the tool, whether you're using it through the command line or it's a library that you're importing and integrating with in your source code. Kind of like how good are the types, how good is the error handling. But then I think it's growing and growing. So there's like the DX for the tool itself, but then there's also kind of the whole ecosystem around the tool. So it's kind of like the documentation you can find, the resources you can find, and what you're talking about, like you arrive at the website, what does it feel like when you open the can of Coke, when you get the packaging, and then even in some people are even talking about developer experience as kind of like a retention or engagement for your own employees metric, like how happy are your developers, how happy is their experience. But yeah, I think probably today we're mostly focused on the developer experience of the tool and the developer experience of the ecosystem around the tool.
It's a lot. It's a lot of different things. And one of the things I think that comes up with we have this conversation, and we've talked about it several times. Alex, you and I, Kyle, you and I have talked about it. Kelly, we just met yesterday, but I feel like it's something we will talk quite a bit. It's also just not a one-size-fits-all approach, right? Developer experience is different for different types of developers and for different types of companies, which makes it a bit of a hard thing to wrap your head around others, right? But in our attempt to wrap our hands around it, you get a little bit more clear out. Alex, I want to come back to you and ask, what do you think makes for a good developer experience?
Yeah, so mostly looking at the tool and the ecosystem. For the tool, it's very nice to have good error handling, a good getting started experience, like kind of out of the box, things are working, or if they're not working, they're telling you why they're not working, so you have next steps versus just some mysterious error that you're banging your head against. And then something that I think is increasing in popularity is some form of type system, some sort of automated safety that the developer can have so that you know sort of what inputs it's expecting. And again, it's just kind of more clues to help the human know what they're doing wrong with the tool. And then for the ecosystem of the tool, I think that you want good documentation. You want like a great getting started page. You want some guides for the high-level concepts, and you want some good references for the nitty-gritty, like if you have to look up specific line items. So I think kind of those three are what I'm always looking for in a documentation ecosystem. It is nice to have good resources like news or blog posts from whoever is maintaining the tool So you know that if an update is coming, they're discussing it, they're telling you about the changes, they're telling you how to deal with them, they're getting you excited maybe about the changes that are coming. And then this is the hardest one to just kind of build, but the community, like how many other people out there are using the tool. So if I hit a problem and I ask Google my question, someone else has already asked this question, got the answer, and then I can feed off of that. And it gets kind of both from people running the errors troubleshooting and asking questions, and then people building for the tool. Very popular tools kind of have their whole own ecosystem of other tools that people get around them, which creates for a very rich developer experience. You kind of any problem you need to solve, maybe someone has solved it already. They need to just take advantage of that.
Maybe like Atlassian and like their products would be good to do about like Jira, for instance, right? Have its own ecosystem of products and tools and finance and everything, extensions built with it.
Yeah, you can kind of turn Jira into whatever you want it to be, because so many people have built all these extensions for it. It's such a popular tool, or has it?
Something I'm curious. I'm going to go off script a little bit here and put Kelly on the spot. Please do so. I've been using you right in your wheelhouse. One of the things that Alex said, community being a really difficult part to build a developer experience. And I'm curious if you'd agree with that statement. If so, why do you think community is so difficult?
I would agree with that statement, Keaton. I think community is a long game. You have to earn the trust and the respect and the loyalty from your developer community. They're not just going to flock to you.
True.
You have to have a good product. It has to be easy to use. It has to be frictionless. You have to have all the content around it. And as part of that, you have to have the community channels to kind of grow that ethos. So whether that's a kind of Discord community channel, whether that's a Slack community, whether that's online developer forums, you have to kind of lay down the foundations, but you have to make sure you've got the kind of support mechanisms in place. So whether that's giving them access to your SMEs with your organization, whether that's giving them quick access in the channels to your support teams, or whether that's kind of enabling peer-to-peer community support through those channels. That takes time. You're not going to get that on day one. And it's really about listening to your developers and thinking about development experience. It's about being voice, the eyes and the ears of the development community, and you've kind of got to really foster that relationship. And that's kind of it's a long game.
To add to that, like to borrow a phrase from my friend Gary here, like you need to spark joy, right? There's sort of levels to this. The first level is just general usage, adoption, engagement. Your product seems interesting. It solves a problem that I have. I'm interested in giving you the right tools and resources to get started with it. And I'm not banging against the wall with errors that I'm just going to walk away, right? So that's like level one. Level two is you need to be really engaged and enthused by the product. How enthusiastic you're not going to spend the time contributing to community, talking about it, engaging with others in the conversation, and essentially advocate for the product. So that's ultimately what you're doing. You're spending your time and resources taking part in the community. You're answering questions other people have. You're developing tools to support others in the community, and you're really engaging at a deeper level. That sort of comes out of that joy and that enthusiasm and that passion for the product or the service or the tool that you're using. It's sort of the layer two on top of just basic engagement.
I have a very specific, selfish question to ask all three of you, because it's something clients ask us quite a bit when we continue to develop a community. And you mentioned, two options: Discord. You can spin up Discord community, spin up a Slack community. Something we get asked quite a bit, and I'm asked all three of you: Discord or Slack for a developer community? It's even more option C. Does it not matter? But
I mostly see Slack. I have not been forced into Discord yet for anything. Like I have a Discord account, but I really don't use it that often. Most of the tools I'm participating in these days have Slack communities. These are mostly Python tools or security tools. So I don't know if that's kind of different for what segment that you're looking at, but I'm mostly seeing Slack right now.
Slack. Personal preference, if I had to choose myself, like selfishly, would be Slack, just for ease of use, familiarity, preference, personally. I would say generally what I've seen in terms of the decision-making and criteria, it sort of falls on size of organization.
Okay.
Your more grassroots, smaller, scrapping startups tend to adopt Discord because there's a lot you can do with it. It's just got a lot of security and bot capabilities that support the growth of that community out of the box that Slack has sort of, kind of, but not necessarily at the same level. There's also certain community types that tend to gravitate towards a Discord. I would say some more of your, like the blockchain or security conscious folks will go that direction. Whereas larger enterprises and more established businesses, they just trust the name, the brand, the size and scale of Slack. They see them go in that direction.
Yeah, I don't think there's actually a perfect answer to that, really. We've got a Slack community. However, that said, looking in the AI world, Hugging Face have a Discord community, and they've got a huge number of members in that space. Cohere also has a Discord community, and actually quite often, I'm fortunate enough that at Graphcore, we've got hundreds of engineers that work in our company. So I've always used that as an opportunity to ask them their opinions on which ML community channels do they hang out? Where do they love to be? Where do they have conversations with other developers? Where do they go to learn? And, a lot of these Discord channels do pop up. But then also on the same side, PyTorch, which is probably the most popular machine learning framework out there at the moment, they also have a Slack community.
Sure.
So it's a 50-50, I think. And I think it does kind of depend on the industry, the types of developers. We've been kind of considering looking at a Discord community, but again, I haven't looked into that in kind of too much detail. But I think maybe it might have more of like a gamification type of aspect to it, which would be quite interesting to look into. But yeah, I think it's kind of a mixed bag, really.
All right. There are a couple votes each direction of Slack coming up as the over here. Yeah. Another kind of bringing it back on script. Another question that I want to ask all three of you, and Kelly, we'll start with you for this one. Whether or not because of my massive amounts of ADHD or not, panels are always, I really enjoy panels from the macro perspective, but for me to really kind of learn something, I need to go into it on my own, do a bunch of research, and kind of spend my own time wrapping around something. So for everyone here who's thinking about DX, what is a company that they can reference as having great DX?
Okay. So in the AI world, I'll give some of my kind of personal examples of companies that I know that do really well in that area. First would be Hugging Face. I'm sure most people have heard of Hugging Face. If you covered, they are a hugely popular AI collective kind of community platform. And they have a huge model hub where developers can go and access, they can filter by particular types of machine learning models, whether that's in NLP or computer vision. And they can select through a whole bunch of different models, a whole bunch of different data sets.
Sure.
And it kind of, they can deploy models in the cloud very quickly. So they've got a very popular kind of ease of use experience when it comes to ML development. Another example I would say in the AI space would be a company called Weights and Biases, another very popular tool among ML engineers. So it's a AI development platform, but they offer tools where developers can integrate their tools into their models, where they can track and monitor what their model's doing under the hood. And they can do that by implementing a one-line of code. And that's something that's actually true. I know as we're talking about these buzzwords, it's easy to use one-line code in one click, but that's actually true to the case of somebody like Weights and Biases. So they've been very successful in that space. And as I mentioned before, PyTorch. They have a whole bunch of documentation, lots of good, really good resources, courses, great developer events. Yeah. They would be three of those that would stand out to me. But one of the things that I want to do is put the question out to our resident engineers and developers at Graphcore to get their comments, because it's not what I think, it's what the developer thinks. So I thought I'd just read some of these out. because it's quite interesting to see some examples that they're providing. So, and I've asked them to think beyond AI, anything they've used, they've had a good developer experience, what would be those examples? So one of our solution architects has said, personally, I found Apple's iOS developer resources to be quite decent, considering it's a huge bunch of APIs in a language I wasn't previously familiar with, i.e. Swift. They have self-contained code examples for every new API feature and live coded walkthroughs from the annual developer conference gets published online. And then these last two comments I think are quite interesting. So comment from different perspectives. One of our graduate software engineers has said, I have a lot of opinions on this, but without a doubt, the best DX on the planet goes to firstsale.com, which I hadn't heard of until they called that out. So it's a web development platform. And they said a few things that really make it stand out. One-click deployments is as simple as linking up your GitHub repo and bang, your website is deployed. It's crazy. You don't need to mess around with configs, and they make it as easy as possible to get something run out on the platform with one click.
Alex, same question. Agree, disagree with some examples, or do you have others that you think do great or negative DX?
I think those were a lot of great examples. I haven't played with all of them. There are a lot of good DX examples out there. I think that, like, I wouldn't point at one company that's kind of nailing it across the board, but I have a couple little slices that I've been enjoying. The one thing is when a company exposes their functionality through an API and they offer a playground, a way that you can work with their API kind of clean through their website instead of needing to, because you're using their API in your code base, there's going to be all this other baggage in your code base that you have to like fight through to actually get to the little part where you call their API. So one example of that right now is ChatGPT. OpenAI has this like platform.openai.com, and it sort of looks like the normal like ChatGPT interface, but it gives you all of the behind the scenes controls also. So you can edit the system prompt as well as the user messages. You can also fabricate your own chat history. So a lot of LLMs just will like use the chat history context to help guide their next answers. And so a popular form of prompt tuning is end-shotting, which is essentially you gaslight the AI. You say, you fabricate a history where it's like the user asked you this and you answered this correctly. The user asked you this and you answered this correctly. Okay, now I'm asking you the third time. And it's more likely, even though you made up those previous answers, it's more likely to behave how you want it to behave after the gaslighting. So OpenAI has a great interface for that. And then another great, what was my other great developer slides? Oh, I got so carried away by the gaslight.
I didn't.
I had a specific tool that I was really enjoying in terms of DX. I'll think of it later. Yeah. So, I mean, the trend you're starting to see here is it's really about the different aspects. I think Slice would be very word coordinate, like what your developer needs and how you're serving that. I think if I want to bring it back to like the 10,000 foot view of generalities of people that are doing a good job overall, like at a broad level. 3 examples that you've probably heard before. One is GitHub. They've got a huge community, a lot of tools, but it's very easy to get started. You quickly register, quickly onboard, quickly make that first sort of successful test of the application platform. Another is Twilio, been around forever. We always hear about them in developer relations, right? They pop up on the old school DX or developer evangelism programs. The reasons, though, that they do well are really interesting. How they approach engaging that developer community. And there's one that stuck with me as a Twilio user. I met them at the DevRel programs I was running at various events, and I got on the mail list somewhere. Out of the blue one day, I got a piece of mail coming in, and it was a package about this big, beautifully branded Twilio Quest. The hell is Twilio Quest? It's got this kind of Zelda-looking feel, 8-bit old Nintendo aspect to it. They had branded a program custom for Twilio. There's this game called Twilio Quest, which was all about educating developers on how to use Twilio platform. The way they approached it was through video games. And so they literally went out and built an old school side-scroller 8-bit Nintendo Zelda-looking video game. They had characters they developed. They had a whole brand around it. They had marketing messaging. Everything was built around this Twilio Quest game. And you open this package, and there's this beautiful sling bag in there with the Twilio Quest branding on it. There's a box of Twilios, which were like cereal, which was just random and hilarious. There's pencils, there's all this stuff, and it all aligned to this concept of the game. And the purpose of this, they sent this out to active members of the community to get them to engage with this game. So ultimately, the call to action was to go to this website, start engaging with this game, which would then walk you through sort of these various steps to help you up-level your education on the use and adoption of Twilio. I thought that was a really unique approach. So that was from the engagement sort of first experience aspect of how do we get developers to just come and play and learn and grow their understanding of our product. Behind the scenes, though, Twilio has also done a very good job on content generation. Right? They have the supporting aspects in forms of video. They have it in written form. They have tutorials and guides. They have great documentation. Things are easy to find and utilize. And it really supports you throughout your journey of learning and utilizing their products. The probably best flagship example I can give today from a holistic stance of like, we have a great developer experience all up is Stripe. Stripe is winning at this game today, in my opinion, and I've had the joy of spending a lot of time really diving deep into Stripe from a competitive analysis perspective with some of our other clients. That allowed me to really just go deep in all of their facets of their product. Some areas that I would highlight are their documentation. They do a fantastic job on documentation. They've utilized artificial intelligence to increase their search algorithms. So now you can go in there, punch in, ACH. Again, they're in the financial services sector. So I want to learn about ACH, which is a type of payment rate. It'll bring up all the articles and documents across video, across tutorials, across guides, so across their portfolio of their product that's related to ACH. I'll say, I think, you're doing this. Essentially like chatting with ChatGPT in the search algorithm to help find and discover the content that's most relevant to you. I found that to be a very enticing experience, a very unique experience. It was novel at the time too. Not a lot of people were doing that. But beyond that, they have a really great onboarding experience. It's like 2 or 3 clicks to onboard in terms of the steps that you have to go through. And they have guided walkthroughs along the way, right? So if you're getting to the more advanced steps where you need to add a bank account to to upgrade your service with them, right? You're going to go past the free tier to more premium. They have a very simplified process that really walks you and guides you down that path. So there's a lot of handholding that makes it feel very seamless. But once you get past that stage, there's all the resources and the assets that you could possibly want to support you in going further in the journey. And I think that's the really critical aspect of it. Alex, did you come up with your cuts?
I did remember my my last slice was for Sell, and this is kind of what you were both talking about like a frictionless starter experience or like being able to integrate in single line code. And for Sell, we used to be my favorite example for it's just very easy to build a website locally and then deploy it into the cloud with Vercel. Vercel hosts the Catchy website, and I've been very happy with it for many years. It just magically works. Like you make a branch at GitHub and it makes a preview website for you at its own unique URL, so you could preview that branch before you merge it back into Maze.
I had a question. I think into really good examples of you guys all named software companies, right? It's got great videos and websites and documentation, but it seems like, especially with emerging tech like AI, they kind of is like, well, you don't have hardware, like there's not really much we can help you. And it seems as though developers are running up against the physical world again with own limitation, which is an inhibitor to developer experience, right? The hardware that developers have, unlike a blockchain, unless you're laying Bitcoin, that doesn't matter. Like hardware is not a very much important aspect to that, but with AI specifically, I want to make this about AI, but any limiters on the developer experience side of like, hey, we taking care of all of these other areas, you should probably get a new computer, or you should probably get an
IPU.
An IPU. Is that also like the GPU is in a specialized CPU and IPU is a specialized GPU, which does one thing even more specifically better?
So we see ourselves as competing against the GPU, essentially the kind of higher tier GPU product offering.
Yeah.
But to your point about hardware, and it's something that we've had to really address in our strategic approach to developers. So, going back a few years ago, we were very much focused on selling on-premise hardware to AI developers and ML engineers and research scientists. And the experience at that point was very much a kind of traditional sales-led, very manual process. And back then it was a case of a developer would come to our website, they were interested in our hardware, they were interested in a contact form, that would go to the marketing team, that would then be passed to the sales team, they would then set discovery calls, there'd be more than one discovery call, they'd then be interested in trying our hardware, getting access to it. And it was a case, in that moment in time, we had like a bare metal offering in cloud. So we had to set the SSH keys, their login credentials. There was an onboarding and training meeting to get them onto the hardware, downloading the SDKs, all of that stuff. And so the point from a developer becoming aware of our hardware to the point of a developer experiencing and actually getting to touch our hardware was quite far apart. And then when we saw recently quite a big shift in terms of market trend and the kind of demand and the appetite to get access to AI hardware in the cloud, we had to change our approach. And so we launched a cloud offering, but we looked at it very much as like a product-led growth initiative, or as I prefer to look at, more of a developer-led growth initiative. And so we spent a lot of time in obviously partnering with these ecosystem tools to help kind of improve the software offering. We wanted to get them access to hardware as quick as possible and really move that needle down. And so we spent a lot of time building out an AI model garden, which is our kind of British term of an AI model hub. And we had all of the different AI models and kind of different areas of AI, different frameworks. But we wanted to make sure that they could get access instantly, and that was done through their growth approach. We had a button that you could click on, that AI model card, and it would spin up a Jupyter notebook that was backed, that's powered in the back end through an IP machine, and it's in a cloud environment. And from doing that, so addressing the software side of it, but also getting access to the hardware side of it quickly, we did see a significant improvement in terms of the number of users that will come into our platform. So I think that kind of answers your question. Software is obviously important, but the hardware aspect of it, we had to kind of really change that long onboarding process and make it as easy as possible for them to kind of stop paying with IPUs, essentially.
Hardware makes things complicated. It's bad. Reducing that time to hello world is always something you want to focus on. And yeah, that whole extra step of hardware there makes it even more challenging. We're close to time. I want to save some time at the end for questions. So I'm going to ask a big question with about 3 minutes left for us before we go to Q&A, which is, it's the one we've avoided most of the day. We've avoided talking about AI most of today. One of the things that's come up quite a bit in this session, though, is the amount of content and things and that's needed for a good developer experience. We had reference to where you've got code samples for everything, you've got toolboxes, you've got content, you've got guides, you've got AI search capabilities. So my general question to the group, whoever jumps on it first is welcome to lead us on this, is in what way is AI making an impact to the creation and management of good DX?
Well, I mean, I think Kyle's example earlier of Stripe having AI in their documentation that you can chat with is spreading now. I see that more and more on other people's documentation sites. It is sometimes just a glorified search, but sometimes you really can participate with it a bit more. And so I think, yeah, AI, not as content generation, but as content discovery is helpful. I had a weird experience with, we are evaluating different authentication providers where we're offloading the authentication burden. in one of the ones that we're doing like a proof of concept test for, we were trying to figure out like how to execute this filter query. They had nothing to their actual documentation. Via Google, their forums came up with this really strange, complex-looking answer that didn't quite sound like it applied to our situation. But we also had a direct line set up with them. Like they had salespeople in our Slack. And so I asked them the same question. And as I asked that question, my coworker asked ChatGPT the same question. And their salesperson came back with the same complex answer that didn't seem relevant. But ChatGPT came up with this very elegant single-line solution. And that was nowhere to be found. I don't know where it got this from. But it worked. And I told their team that it worked. I was like, wait, this looks way better, that we just got it from an AI. And they didn't even really, they just kind of brushed it off. They weren't even worried about it.
Yeah.
But I went with the AI generate solution.
And then
Yeah, I don't necessarily see AI taking over and creating all the content. I think it's a tool still to be leveraged, right? We all need to be aware of how we can use it today as a tool. Where that'll be in 5 years, I think could be a very different story as it continues to evolve. We see this transition taking place from the AI assistant to the AI agent, where it can actually participate as a member of your team versus answering some questions and leading a lot of human oversight. I think that'll shift the game a bit. In today's world, though, again, it's a tool. It's how do you leverage this to present a better experience? The search algorithm is a perfect example of that. You can think of it as more like concierge treatments or tailored content to provide a more specific experience for a developer as an individual versus a broad audience or persona. So as we look at personas, again, it's broad strokes. We paint everybody with a single brush and sort of lump them into categories because we're humans and that's how we like to think about things, right? Things go into buckets. Applying AI to that starts to give you a bit more of a individual perspective, right? So the search example, it's providing more tailored content. As it learns more about you, it might provide more relevant content to you beyond just a general tailor and a question. So I think there's ways we can leverage it to prevent a more refined experience to our users, which is ultimately an improved experience. But again, it's just a tool that we're leveraging today. Where that is in 5 years, I think we're still having this conversation 5 years from now. It's going to look very, very different. And I think it'll be an interesting conversation to have. But for today, leverage it to the best of your abilities to provide a better experience. And
Last but not least, Kelly, anything we would like to add?
I think moving away from the sort of AI to the content generation side, I think what's really interesting that's coming out in terms of trends at the moment and where the kind of market's heading in terms of AI tools that's impacting the actual developer experience. We're seeing a lot of AI agents that are being applied for code generation.
Sure.
So things like GitHub Copilot is really taking off. I think OpenAI just recently announced a kind of own version of that, OpenAI Canvas. So I think I'm going to see a lot more of those AI tools be implemented within the development workflow and the use journey for code generation. So things like helping to write code, to review bugs, to kind of QA type processes. I think it's starting to be put into production now. So I think that's a really interesting space and where the developer experience is changing.
Right. Three related but semi-different answers from all of you. And that is largely going to be the only conversation we have about AI today. So I think we've done a good job for a tech conference kind of minimizing that. So I'd say just a big thank you to all of you for joining us. Really appreciate it. Good times on the panel. So, all the